Green Door Groovers, how are you doing? Thanks for joining me, and this is our first ever video, so I'm quite excited, but if I'm honest, a little bit nervous too. It's a new thing. However, I just feel, well, Marianne and I, that's the other half of Green Door Grooves if you're new to us, we're a yoga events company in West Sussex. Marianne and I felt that really there's a lot of people a lot of the time asking for help really with stuff they can do at home, self-practice, different techniques, meditations, and we felt it was about time that we, do something to help you guys. So I hope this is helpful. This video is an introduction to self-practice. This part of it is just me explaining what a self-practice is, and then the next video is us doing self-practice together. So self-practice, as it sounds, I'm sure, is self, meaning by yourself, and practice, but practice meaning a yoga practice. Why do you want to do a self-practice rather than do a practice in a class or online even? So self-practice, and this is something that I was also always taught as, as a yogi, is really what you're leading to. So you start off at classes, and of course traditionally you wouldn't have had yoga classes. You'd have had a guru, and you'd have had someone guiding you, probably personally, through your practice. But in modern times, we've been used to going to classes, and of course we've had the luxury of being able to go to classes 2, 3, 4, 5 times a week. But actually, although classes are really helpful, and they are extremely helpful when it comes to learning the postures correctly, because you've got a teacher right there being able to adjust you and help you, and they're also great in that you've got a whole class of people, and the energy together, coming together, can really make you feel good. It can be very calming, relaxing. It can also give you a little buzz. So there's great reasons for going to class. And then of course with online resources, which, as I say, are really helpful, and they're great in terms of, perhaps seeing new teachers, different teachers. But the problem is that all of this can become a bit of a crutch. And ultimately, in the world we live in, my belief, and this is my opinion of course, my belief is that we need to be resourceful and take care of ourselves. We need to take responsibility for our own health and our own well-being. If you have the tools, i.e. if you know enough yoga to be able to take it into your home and practice by yourself, you will get much more from it. And also, you will really start to learn about your body and the way your body responds to this kind of movement or stillness or meditation. It gives you a much deeper insight into yourself. And in yoga, this is called svadhyaya, which is self-study, self-awareness, self-inquiry. So in order for us to really move forward in our lives and start to understand our psychology, the way we are made up, what pushes our buttons, what upsets us, what motivates us, yoga practice, and particularly a self-practice, can really start to give you the tools to do that. It means you can do it anytime, anywhere, because you've got the knowledge of what you need to do, okay? So in this second video, I'm going to be taking you through a self-practice, which you can do with me, of course, and then after, if you keep practicing it for a few sessions, then you can just turn me off and you can keep doing it yourself. Those of you who are already quite, know your yoga, know your postures, this talk at the beginning might be helpful to help you take your practice off your classroom mat and into your own space, okay? So the first thing I want to just look at is where you do your self-practice. So you want to do it in somewhere that you can, I would say that you can have the same place every day. So and that might be, it depends on how much space you've got, of course. It could be the corner of your bedroom, it could be in your living room, it could be outside, depending on the conditions. But I would suggest that you always do it in the same spot. And in that spot, it's really helpful, I think, to have what you need there. So, you can keep your mat there, keep your yoga mat there, keep your block if you use blocks, cushions if you use cushions, anything that you might need to actually do your practice, so keep them in that spot. But also that you might like to pretty up your spot and give it some of your own good vibrations. So I have a shrine. Actually, you can't see it here. I've got two shrines. I've got one there and one there. Perhaps I'll show you in another video. And those of you who come here know, of course. But if, for instance, behind me now, I've got my Shiva. So whenever I see Shiva, it just gives me a kind of powerful, self-empowering vibe. I like Shiva. I'm very kind of connected to Shiva. So even that, just knowing that I've got that statue there, brings me into a calm and a sort of spiritual frame of mind. That sounds weird, but if you know what I mean. I would also light a candle. That's me, I like a candle. You could bring flowers into your space. You could bring any photographs of people who inspire you or people who you're close to, people who have brought you up, family members or teachers who you respect, or gurus or deities, if that's your thing. It doesn't have to be like that at all. It might be nothing. The other thing that I like in my space is scent or smell. So I quite often use incense. That's what I like because it purifies the space as well. But I'll also use oils, burning oils. And of course you can get different oils depending on what you want to, how you want to feel. If you want to feel, a bit enlivened, woken up, then you could use a rose or a geranium. If you want to feel chilled, maybe a lavender, a clary sage. You can look these things up. So you can choose nice scents, you can choose good lighting. Again, if it's first thing in the morning, you might want to be in nice sunlight. If it's later on, perhaps a dimmed lighting. The video we're going to do in a moment, or the practice we're going to do in a moment, is suitable for any time of the day, really. So that would be your space, getting your space right. And sounds, you want to, as much as you can, make sure that you haven't got too much noise. Don't get too caught up in this because there's noise everywhere, absolutely everywhere. You're going to have some noise. But what you can do to minimise it, so you can turn off your phones, you can turn off iPads, all that stuff. You can ask your lovely family just not to disturb you for a while, maybe. Whatever that you can do to minimise noise is good because it just helps with your concentration. You might like to have music. I don't usually do my self-practice to music because, again, I like to really focus inside. However, sometimes it is nice to have a bit of music, and I know some people really enjoy that. So those are sounds, we've got scents, we've got, your feeling. So your space should be a space that you look forward to going into. It's your own space. And the time of which you do this, as I say, you can choose whatever time in the day. I find it very useful to stick to a time. So my preferred method is morning. I'm much more of a morning person than an evening person. I'm not very good in the evenings, although I will often meditate in the evenings. But in terms of sort of wake up practice, first thing in the morning for me. And if you're like me, then what I do is I set my alarm and I pretty much roll out of bed onto my mat. I do what ablutions I need to, and then I just roll down, sit on my mat. Obviously I'm wearing something that I can move in. I don't distract myself too much. I don't go and get a drink, really. I tend to do that afterwards. You do you, of course, and find your way. But I'm telling you what works for me. Because I find if I do too much, then it's very easy for me to get into my to-do list of, I've got to do this, I've got to do this. And before you know it, you're like your self-practice is out the window. So make it a priority, roll into your space, and then just get started. What happens if you wake up and you're like, oh, I just can't be bothered? Or what happens if you forget to do it? You know, do you think, oh, I've forgotten to do it, that's it, I've failed? No, of course not. Please don't think that. Or if you wake up and like, I just can't be bothered. In my experience, it's best to still roll out of bed, sit on your mat, and then if it's just that you're sitting on your mat like that, your eyes closed or kind of falling over, or even just lying down, I would still do it. I would still just be on your mat, because then you are committing to the fact you're on your mat. Okay, that day might not have been so good, you may not have actually done the practice, but you've sat on your mat, you've committed to being there. So even though it's not the most ideal, it's still generating the energy you need in your space to a degree, and it means that you came from your bed downstairs or wherever you've come to do it, okay? So I would suggest that. Don't give yourself a hard time, and don't set yourself a massive task. You know, don't say, I'm going to practice for an hour and a half every day, Monday to Sunday, because if you don't do it, then you're just going to give yourself a hard time and, oh, I can't do it. Much better to say, okay, I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to do a 20-minute practice, and I'm going to do it, 5 days a week or 3 days a week, and start there. Because what you'll find is that you'll start it, it hasn't been over-facing, you haven't given yourself too much to do. You start it, and then actually, after a period of time, you find that, oh, I've done like half an hour rather than 20 minutes. Or actually, I'm going to practice today as well, because I've realised it makes me feel better and it sets me up for the day. So I would, don't set your goals too high too quickly. Ease yourself in. Okay, so I think that covers the sort of practicalities of the self-practice. And now we will go on to the video, which is going to explain how to go about doing self-practice. Okay, so stay tuned.